Happening today, the Healey-Driscoll Administration hosting a work authorization clinic this week for migrants staying in emergency family shelters. Now, this comes just days after the state's emergency shelters reached capacity. And
Western Mass's reporter Matt Price is live in studio with more on this new plan. Matt, what can you tell us?
Well, David and Amanda, good morning to the both of you. This effort is in partnership with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and it is meant to help give migrants an opportunity to connect with employers and enter the workforce. From what we understand, this clinic is set up by the Commonwealth and will have organized appointments and provide transportation to get migrants to the clinic, which will take place in Middlesex County. It will build on several state-run programs to provide legal assistance to migrant families and help shelter residents start working. One of the several programs involved is Mass Hire, whose goal is to assess skills and work readiness to help residents have the authorization to work. Right now, the initial phase is to focus on 14 shelter sites across the Commonwealth, which means the representation of approximately 1,500 families. Western Mass News recently spoke to the executive director of the Mass Hire Springfield Career Center about trying to find work for some of these migrants.
We did an ESOL, English as a Second Language, immigrant job fair in September, and we had 10 companies here. And the thing that I would say, of the 10, 9 of them employed people who spoke the languages of these people that are coming here, immigration. So if they have staff already working there, then they sort of have a nice little pipeline to get them into basic kind of employment.
Again, the clinic is happening today in Middlesex County. I'll have more on this effort in our next half hour. For now, reporting live in the studio, Matt Price, Western Mass News.